are calling what's happening right now in France a coup or an attempted coup. Before we get into why that is, and you are one of those people, can you set up what happened in the July elections that got us to the point we're at right now?
Yes, those have been very hectic weeks. What happened is that we've been campaigning for the past almost year now for the European elections that happened early June. Actually, Emmanuel Macron party was beaten at those elections. The far right won the election. They did win this same election 5 years ago, so it was not a surprise, but they had a big results. And during the campaign, they said that if they were to win, Macron should call a snap election, which he did. Like, he didn't do this when we had this huge movement against the pension reform, and that people were saying that there's a problem with the National Assembly because the people want something and the National Assembly is not ready to vote for it. He could have done it now then, but he did it only at the request, literally at the request of the far right. He was making a bet and trying to either let the far right win because they were expected to win, having won the previous election, or trying to regain some majority, so for some wide of margin at the National Assembly, because the fear of the far right, he thought, would have put him as the best way to beat the far right. But this backfired for him because, first of all, people were quite shocked that he would agree with the far right and give them what was supposed to be their expected victory. And it triggered something very deep within the people, because the far right in France and the National Rally, as they call them, is an actual fascist party. They campaign targeting migrant people, Muslim people, people from immigrant background, saying that they would forbid people from immigrant background to get position in the states and things like that. Like, the far right always targeting people of color and stuff like that. And actually, people actually feared for their lives, for their livelihood, for the future of their kids. So what we managed to do during that time is to mobilize millions of people. What the bet that Macron did in June was also that we couldn't unite. We had built this coalition back in 2022 called the NUPES. Uh, we did that, the France Insoumise, because we had a great result at the presidential election, and we said, okay, let's get together, and we could maybe win the legislative election. We didn't, but we did a great results. For 2 years we built this alliance, but the Socialist Party and the Green decided to separate from the coalition during the European election, because this is an election that they bet they would get bigger results, and that will give them more influence within our coalition. And that's the reason why Macron was able to do that, to do that snap election, because he thought that since we had been separated during the European election, we were weakened. The left was weakened, and we couldn't get back together. But we did. We managed to rebuild our coalition, and I think those two elements, the fact that people really feared that the far right could win, all the polls were saying they were like over, I mean, 27, I think, polls that said they would win. And the fact that we managed to rebuild our coalition, the left coalition, help mobilize millions of people, and we actually won the election.
And so now talk us through what happened next with Macron refusing to allow your party to have a prime minister.
Yeah, so we did win the election. That's very important. I repeat that because we are living in, I mean, I think Macron and his supporters are living in an alternative reality, an alternate reality where they keep saying nobody won the election. I think it's very it's we started laughing when they started do that, but it's very what I think Trump said, like it's some alternative truth, or and the idea that you know they don't accept the results of the election, which is very undemocratic, and it's a very serious sign of autocratic uh, tendencies. But so there's this big narrative that the media also is repeating: nobody won the election, which is not true. What is true is that we didn't get an absolute majority at the National Assembly, but that doesn't negate the fact that we came first, which normally would mean that the president should call the candidate from our coalition as prime minister, and then this prime minister is tasked to build a government, to have a government, and then to come before the National Assembly and try to build majorities on bills. That's their job. The person that is selected by the coalition or party that came first is tasked with that. So Macron decided, in a way, to not follow what is the rules in any democratic regime. Actually, that's what is happening in Germany, in Italy, in Spain, everywhere. And he decided, in a way, to play both referee, coach, and even be a player, because he is acting as if he was the leader of his party, which is not. He's not. He's the president, and he just decided not to obey any of the rules and to make his own government, and said, since you don't have an absolute majority, which it means that you're going to be blocked by the assembly, and the other party will not, vote your for your government. So I'm going to make my own government, or the government I think will be able to pass bills and stuff like that. So he's totally overstepping his constitutional role. So we decided to tell him that since he didn't want to call Lucie Castet, who is she's the candidate we decided that should be prime minister. We will vote no confidence to any government it will call, because this government will be illegitimate. We're calling for demonstration because we think that the people should get a say. They said through the polls that they wanted a new Nouveau Front Populaire government, and they are very angry. A lot of people are just like saying, "So what is happening?" It's very serious because it means like you're telling the people that democracy doesn't work. Whether you go vote or not, it doesn't change anything. And it could really, we had during this election a huge turnout at the polls, which is unprecedented. It hasn't happened for since years and decades to have such a big turnout. And we had to go and convince people, knocking doors and telling that, yes, we can do this. We have to defeat the far right, but we can also implement this program that will change your lives. So now we can't just tell them it's okay, let Macron do whatever he wants. So we decided to call them to get onto the streets and demonstrate. And that's what's going to happen on September the 7th. Actually, it's the youth organization who called for this, and we supported their call. And we have decided, as La France Insoumise, to launch. It's like an impeachment procedure because Macron overstepped his role, and actually he is the problem in this he is the one who decided the snap election. He didn't have to, and now he doesn't want to recognize the results of those elections. So that's actually the key to the crisis that is happening. He is the obstacle for the ruling, I mean the functioning of the institution. So he got to be removed from power. So that's why we decided to launch this impeachment procedure.